That is a wonderful way to start the day, isn't it? I'm Jacqueline Luck. I'm the worship associate this morning. Alicia Cooke is bringing us the message this morning, and it looks fascinating. Ode to Joy, how your unapologetic pursuit of happiness will change the world. Woo. Let's go. I have no more announcements other than the ones that are in your Community Matters email that you get every Thursday or Friday. Other than I do want to remind you that next Sunday we're having a class, a new to CCUU class. And the intent in saying that is that you may have attended other Unitarian churches, but maybe you'd like to know more about how this church does its mission in the world. So please let us know ASAP. Just email membership at ccunola.org to let us know. We usually try to have pizza, and so it's good to have a head count. We hope that there are some of you, maybe you listening, that will want to attend. Let us light the chalice now as we sing these words by Verse Brother.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share with you a little reading here, and I was trying to find the author, and it just says, Just Patty. This is, go on, Just Patty, and it's called My Life. Maybe my life isn't always easy, but I love living it anyways. I have a family, a pack of wolves, who are always there for me. They love me no matter what I do or say. I have found the love of my life. He stands by me and fights by my side, and I am proud to be his friend and his wife. He refuses to let me go into the shadows to hide. I have friends to talk and make fun with. They pick me up when I'm down, make me see true friendship is not a myth. Cheer me up, take me to town. I have a house safe and secure, a palace to call home, a shelter for whatever I may have to endure, my own pleasure dome. I have my strength and my courage too, my pride, loving heart, and loyalty. Whatever may have happened, I will get through, and I will enjoy life fully. I have 3 furry creatures I adore. They keep the cold out of me, always comforting me when I'm sore, so cute, soft, and cuddly. I have so many things to be grateful for around me, so many things that make me smile and laugh. My life doesn't need to be perfect. I am already happy. The things I have are more than enough. So ends the reading.
Community Unitarian Church gathers in person and virtually in these unaccustomed times. We've gotten used to being at home watching in our pajamas, and that's so comfy, and we liked it so much. I just forgot it.
Thank you.
Yes, that's so comfy. But I wanted to encourage the children. We have started our religious education classes again, and so we want Mama and Daddy and Auntie and Grandma, or whoever brings you to church, to bring you to church, and we want you to begin to start attending our religious education classes again. We miss having the young voices and the youth here in our church, and the young parents. So please bite the bullet. Get out of the PJs and let's get to church. We need each other. We need to be together in community. At this time, we'll have the reading.
Actually, we're going to make one small edit and switch the order of our readings this morning. So this excerpt is from the Diary of Anne Frank. This is an entry that was dated on May 3rd, 1944. What I'm experiencing here is a good beginning to an interesting life. And that's the reason, the only reason, why I have to laugh at the humorous side of the most dangerous moments. I'm young and have many hidden qualities. I'm young and strong and living through a big adventure. I'm right in the middle of it, and I can't spend all day complaining because it's impossible to have any fun. I'm blessed with many things: happiness, a cheerful disposition, and strength. Every day I feel myself maturing. I feel liberation drawing near. I feel the beauty of nature and the goodness of the people around me. Every day I think what a fascinating and amusing adventure this is. With all that, why should I despair?
Community Unitarian Church is a self-sustaining congregation. The generosity of members and friends enables the congregation to fulfill its purpose in doing the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can make your donations online to support our church in this mission at ccunola.org/stewardship, or by texting 504-370-2659 and enter GIVE. You can also mail a check to 6690 Fleur de Lis, New Orleans, 70124. The congregation is invited to put their gifts in the offering dish as we sing 220, Bring Out Vestal Bread.
Oh,
of our community as we take this opportunity to share our sorrow or our joy with one another. If you're participating online, you can enter your thoughts in the chat box, and we'll try to repeat them. There were cards when you came in, if anybody has one they'd like to share. If not, Linda and Walter could get some cards. If you would like one, is there anyone that would like a card? I don't think so. Okay. Could you So Cynthia says her mother is very ill in the hospital, heart issues as a result of a blood infection. Keep my family in your thoughts. We certainly will, Cynthia. Terrifying.
Elizabeth Colleen writes, "A joy, my daughter finally got her first vaccine. Sorrow, the numbers are high again, so we're still at home a lot until her vaccine kicks in. But it's still very good news, especially for bringing our children back to the service."
And if there are no others, I will light a candle for those joys and sorrows that have remained silent within your hearts.
Second reading comes from The Politics of Optimism by Alex Steffen. Optimism is a political act. Entrenched interests use despair, confusion, and apathy to prevent change. They encourage modes of thinking which lead us to believe that problems are insolvable, that nothing we do can matter, that the issue is too complex to present even the opportunity for change. It is a long-standing political art to sow the seeds of mistrust between those you would rule over. As Machiavelli said, tyrants do not care if they're hated, as long as those under them do not love each other. Cynicism is often seen as a rebellious attitude in Western popular culture, but in reality, cynicism in average people is the attitude exactly most likely to conform to the desires of the powerful. Cynicism is obedience. Optimism, by contrast, especially optimism which is neither foolish nor silent, can be revolutionary. Where no one believes in a better future, despair is a logical choice, and people in despair almost never change anything. Where no one believes a better solution is possible, those benefiting from the continuation of a problem are safe. When no one believes in the possibility of action, apathy becomes an insurmountable obstacle to reform. but introduce intelligent reasons for believing that action is possible, that better solutions are available, and that a better future can be built. And you unleash the power of people to act out of their highest principles. Shared belief in a better future is the strongest glue there is. It creates the opportunity for us to love one another, and love is an explosive force in politics. Great movements for social change always begin with statements of great optimism. So here's something you don't hear very often. 2020 was one of the best years of my life. I was quarantined in the Mississippi countryside with my partner and 2 lovely cats. I was exercising daily because I had the time. I was eating well. I was optimistic about starting a new job. I was watching sunsets and the bats that came out to hunt during the sunset with a cold whiskey cocktail in my hand. Life was simple and satisfying. And yet, I was never far from that prickle of anxiety about the absolute state of things in this world. Perhaps in the form of a news alert pinging on my phone, each one making me think, what fresh hell is at this time? Quite a lot of the guilt that I've carried in my life over the years has centered on times in which, while the world was burning, I was just having a really good time. As we have weathered the latest school shooting or loss of body autonomy or threat to democracy, I've spent many hours ruining otherwise relaxing and happy moments as part of my mind stays guarded and unhappy in pointless solidarity with people in pain. And I say pointless because to someone who has lost a child in a shooting or lost their home in a wildfire, knowing that there is some random woman out in New Orleans who just feels pretty bummed out on their behalf accomplishes absolutely nothing. But still, amid the great sadness that exists in this world, it can feel almost indecent to take time out for our own joy. After all, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention, right? And our social media feeds constantly reinforce this message like some doomsday version of Mad Libs. While you were out distracted by the latest season of insert favorite TV series here, politicians were busy passing insert some sort of heinous legislation here. The subtext being, the apocalypse is underway because you averted your eyes for just one moment to watch Stranger Things. I have always strived to live in service to the world. In fact, I fully believe that our lives only have meaning when we live in service to the world. But there is, or at least there can be, a distinct difference between being outraged at injustice and just being miserable. First and most obviously, taking a break, or 2 or 3, during the course of a week is something we all wholly deserve. You can't run on an empty tank. And yet, I also think this notion has been at the root of why even my joyful days have often been tinged with anxiety and world weariness. I viewed these breaks and moments of private joy as a departure from and a distraction from the very real purpose of my existence, which is to do good in this world. In other words, joy was, for me, and when I could find it, an escape. And this conceptualization is simply not correct. The function of joy is not to escape. I have come here today to tell you that you are entitled to the feeling of joy. One of my mentors for joy, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, clearly says that our purpose for existence on this planet is joy. I admit I was surprised the first time I heard this because from everything I've read from the Dalai Lama, he cites the cultivation of compassion for all living things as our ultimate purpose for being in this material world. And indeed, when I did more research, it appears he's quite clear about both of those things. In a 2021 article, he writes, quote, "I often ask myself what the purpose of life is. I conclude that it is to be happy. We've no guarantee of what will happen in the future, but we live in hope, which is what keeps us going." He later goes on to say, "The basic source of all happiness is a sense of kindness and warm-heartedness toward others. We are all the same as human beings. We are born the same way. We die the same way, and we all want to lead happy lives. As I've said before, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. To the Tibetan Buddhists, the state of joy is an innate one. It is our default that we've often fallen away from as the suffering of the material world weighs down on us. Compassion for both ourselves and others is the path back to this innate state, and luckily it is also free to give. It's a concept that helps explain why Tibetan Buddhist communities are often considered among the most joyful people on the planet, despite exile and persecution that has persisted across generations. When your whole community is faced with great adversity, there's no shortage of opportunities to exercise compassion on a daily basis. Perhaps you are a refugee, making the arduous trek across the Himalayas into India, as many Tibetans have done before you. You may be sharing food, advice, or words of compassion and comfort to other refugees you meet on the journey. You arrive in India, and others who have made the same journey before you extend compassion by assisting you with housing or finding work. And sometime later you may hear of others who are suffering in a similar way, and you may be moved to offer words of comfort or some other form of compassion in memory of your own experiences with suffering. In other words, you walk into the darkness and you confront it by offering compassion. And in doing so, you defeat the darkness, if only for a moment. And from even this momentary defeat of the darkness springs celebration in the form of joy, reclaiming your innate state. Another one of my mentors for joy was a 13-year-old girl who had every reason to stray from that innate state of joy, but steadfastly refused to do so. Anne Frank's story has become so widespread and so canonical that I think sometimes we might be in danger of diluting the power of that story and forgetting how truly remarkable she was. 2 years living in hiding alongside 7 other people under constant threat of capture and death. While her diary captures the day-to-day tedium and annoyances and anxiety, what also shines through is the incredible wellspring of joy that is bubbling up within her as she comes of age. In addition to the passage I read earlier in the service, Anne wrote at one point, "I simply can't build up my hopes on a foundation consisting of confusion, misery, and death. I see the world gradually being turned into a wilderness. I hear the ever-approaching thunder, which will destroy us too. I can feel the sufferings of millions, and yet, if I look up into the heavens, I think that it will all come out all right, that this cruelty too will end, and that peace and tranquility will return again." And throughout her diary, this piercing optimism is one of Anne's hallmarks. So here's a question about Anne. Was she remarkable because of her unusual ability to create and maintain joy despite her grueling circumstances, or could she in fact only survive in those grueling circumstances because of the joy that existed within her? In other words, was joy just an odd bystander in Anne's story, or was it a crucial part of her formula for survival? In my own life, and inspired by Anne's writings, I have since come to view my own moments of joy as something far more critical than mere bystanders in my own story. They are instead an absolutely necessary, non-optional step toward building the life that I want to have and the world that I want to live in. Joy sustains, and without sustenance we do not grow, we do not survive. Moments of joy are not meant to distract us from the work of the world. They are indeed the foundation of that work. And to me, this is where the intrinsic value of joy meets the hard, cold road of trying to create change in this world. To have joy in your life with all that it comprises, your health, this gorgeous planet, a loving community, the miracle that is your very existence, is to have a recipe for optimism. And optimism is a prerequisite for creating lasting social and political change. In our second reading today, the author and futurist Alex Steffen tells us that optimism is a political act. He also says, where no one believes in a better future, despair is a logical choice, and people in despair almost never change anything. Where no one believes a better solution is possible, those benefiting from the continuation of a problem are safe. Shared belief in a better future is the strongest glue there is. It creates the opportunity for us to love one another, and love is an explosive force in politics. Great movements for social change always begin with statements of great optimism. Now, is it always easy to tap into this optimism? Yes. No, I'm totally kidding. Of course it can be really hard. I mean, maybe if we didn't read the news, it would be easier, but then we wouldn't know what we're up against. To this end, I call on the author and environmentalist Joanna Macy, who speaks of a very useful concept that she calls active hope. This is the idea that most of us don't look around at the world in all of its dubious glory and say to ourselves, yeah, this makes me feel really hopeful. Instead, she says, hope is something that you choose to have, and it's something that you choose to do. It is what you lead with, because if you do not set the intention to approach your world with hope, then you will not have the energy to try to do damn near anything. And if you don't do damn near anything, nothing will ever change. This is easier, of course, to write about than to carry out, but maybe the best proof for its feasibility is the fact that confronting just about every successful change movement throughout history, there has been a whole chorus of people who are on hand to say, this won't work. Not here. Not now. And you're foolish to try. And yet somehow people still hoped for change, which led to them working for change, which led to change. Not always, but perhaps just enough times to prove that it can work. I would like to argue that practicing active joy is just as important as active hope. Joy is also something we can choose, not always, perhaps just enough times to make incremental changes in this world for the better. Shortly after the Supreme Court's recent decision on abortion, my friend Angel posted a response on her Facebook page. And she writes, if there is nothing else that the ancestors taught me or us, it is joy through pain. And yes, she put the word joy in all caps. I do not have immediate answers for what comes next, but I will keep dancing and laughing because white supremacy hates that. And Angel's right. White supremacy hates your joy. So does the patriarchy. So does big oil and the billionaire class. Christian nationalism really hates your joy, I'm afraid. And the reasons why are simple. Joyful people build community. Joyful people find it easier to conjure optimism. And joyful people organize, because joyful people have something worth organizing for. So I came here today to tell you that you are entitled to the feeling of joy. To review, here is what joy is not. Joy is not a defensive response. It's not a consequence of turning our back on the brokenness of the world or refusing to participate in the building of a better one. Joy is not escape. But nor am I saying that our joy is a thing that, if we're lucky, persists amid or despite the brokenness of the world. What I believe is that joy can and should be a response, a chosen response, and a radical response to the brokenness that otherwise would seek to consume us. Joy is not obliviousness or escape. Joy is rebellion against forces who count on your pessimism and complacency to maintain the status quo. Joy is an act of service in this world, and joy is revolution. So I came here today to tell you that you are entitled to the feeling of joy. So to summarize, would you like the pragmatic or the intrinsic rationale for joy? The pragmatic is this: that vast systems of inequity and disenfranchisement have colluded to demoralize you, lest you be tempted to believe a better world is possible. Each moment of joy which we allow ourselves shows us a snapshot of this better world and becomes a call to action and a reminder of what's at stake if we resist that call. And as for the intrinsic rationale for joy, if you prefer it, it is this: that you, beloved, are a child of an infinite universe. Among all that ever was, and now is, and ever will be, your small body and soul is the only plot of land for you to till and cultivate entirely on your own. Nothing else truly belongs to you but this. And in a blink, it will be gone and dissolved back into the stars. So make it count. Many of you may remember when we first put out our church sign out front that had the movable text. The first message we ever posted was an Annie Dillard quote. How we spend our days is, of course, does anyone remember the rest of that quote? How we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. Take things day to day, moment of compassion to moment of compassion, and moment of joy to moment of joy. And like that, we've built a life. Our benediction today comes from Mary Oliver. And this is just an excerpt from her excellent poem, Wild Geese. If you do not know the full poem, I recommend you read it as soon as possible. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves.
For our closing hymn today, we're going to be singing number 29, Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee, number 29.